the first 6 months was extremely slow. And one of my girlfriends said, just give it 6 more months. I said, no, I started this so I can have extra money. This isn't working for me financially. And so she says, I promise, if you just give it 6 more months and put yourself out there just a little bit more, it's going to work. And I did. And I am usually booked up 3 to 4 weeks out every week.
This is Therapist Clubhouse, a podcast for private practice entrepreneurs. I'm Annie Schusler. This week, I'm talking to Montoyia McGowan, a private practice entrepreneur in Memphis, Tennessee. Listen as we talk about how she created her tagline, Stopping the Chase, and how she worked through the difficult beginning to create a thriving practice. Welcome, Montoyia. I am so happy to be talking to you.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
So I want to talk to you all about your entrepreneurial journey. And one thing that really interests me, and I think is going to interest everyone listening, is your message. So you're really known for this idea of stop the chase. It's the URL of your business, and it's a message that you have out there a lot. So who do you work with, and how did you identify stop the chase as being a really important message for those folks?
I work with entrepreneurs, working professionals. I like to call them the working well. I work with people who are artists and creatives, folks who have a difficult time with shutting their brains off at night because they are still working in their heads. And I came across, when I decided to do open my practice, it resulted from me listening to podcasts like this. Yeah. So there was no one that I knew locally who had opened a practice that I had developed a relationship with yet. So me listening to podcasts helped me. And
that's so cool.
Yeah, it is. And so I was trying to come up with a name, and I have a chase that I absolutely love. And I was thinking, what if we could stop the chase and sit on it right quick? And then I started thinking about how we have these chasing thoughts at night. And I ended up developing stopping the chase of the things that we think will make us happy. Not chasing people, chasing relationships. For many of us intellectuals, we chase titles and alphabets behind our names. We chase a lot of things that we think will bring us the kind of life that we want to have. But I've learned through my own personal journeys is everything you need, you pretty much already have them. Yeah.
I love that. And I notice this in myself and a lot in other people, this idea of, well, once I have this, then I'm going to rest and be happy. Once this happens, once that happens, and then that thing keeps moving.
Right.
So like for entrepreneurs, I think a lot of times that can be anything from a number of clients to a dollar amount, an income level, where I know that's happened for me, that I kept moving the finish line.
Right.
Which is fine. It's good to keep growing, but never noticing, I actually crossed that old finish line.
Right.
Like, let's celebrate for a minute instead of just chasing.
Right. And then you have these new ideas that constantly come up. Like one idea leads to another idea. So when do you really stop and smell the roses for real, as opposed to looking at them, taking a picture, and letting them sit in your phone?
Yeah. So you have noticed this with the people you work with, not just in terms of career or relationship or any one thing, but you've noticed it as kind of a mindset.
Absolutely. And I totally feel like social media has contributed to that. Many of my clients are millennials, and they have a high level of anxiety or even depression because Instagram is instant, right? So they assume that the things that they should have in life should be a lot more instant as opposed to really having to work through them. People my age are doing X, Y, Z. And so why am I not there in life? That's because you don't see the background picture. You just see what they post.
Yeah. Yeah, you see something you really curated.
Right. Yeah.
Hmm. And so how long ago did you start your private practice?
I started in 2015. I started
Okay,
listening
cool.
to two guys that are pretty huge in the podcast private practice world. And I listened to everything they told me and listened to other people who said, you can do it, don't stop. And I just kept going.
And what are you most excited about right now in your business?
I am most excited that I am helping to work through the stigma of therapy being a sign of weakness. I
Mm.
am most excited that the working well people are taking a break from life to give themselves an hour of self care. And I'm most excited that the African American community, the professionals, they are coming to therapy. They are making time to come and sit and be still and talk about what is causing barriers to them having the kind of emotional life that they desire to have.
Hmm. And can you say more about that? Like, what have you noticed changing in the last few years?
Um, I I feel like I think we all have had issues with depression and anxiety at some point or another.
Hmm.
Um, it's just a way of life. And we also have all had trauma.
Hmm.
Trauma for me could be a bad relationship, or trauma for you could be a bad accident that you just can't seem to stop having this reoccurring dream about. And so some people have started to realize that seeking therapy is healthy and it's proactive, and it shouldn't be something that you should react to. And so now people are starting to realize that, oh, you don't have to go to a psych ward. You can go and see a therapist. And I really, really want to help make therapy be the dope thing to do. I want people to be comfortable with bragging about what my therapist did.
Excellent. Yeah. And so you're really a part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I noticed that that's a lot of, it's not the only thing you talk about on social media, but that's a big part of what you're posting about is really erasing the stigma.
Yeah. Yeah. Going to therapy is cool because the
Hmm.
more you learn to be your authentic self, and the more you learn to not chase other people's personalities and how other people think you should live your life, the more self accepting you are. And the more you start to appreciate your own self worth. And you don't tend to compare yourself to other people and other people's lives. And so you learn to be content with what you have and where you are in life and build on that. It's hard work though.
Yeah. It's so hard. Have you noticed as you're starting to work with people and they're doing that hard work with you that that particular clients are getting more pride about being in therapy?
Hmm. I
They're maybe
am.
starting out a little shy about it and then starting to talk about it with their friends.
Right. Absolutely. Um, one of the questions I like to ask some of my clients after maybe the second or third session is, who have you talked to about you coming here? And who is supporting you with coming to therapy? The first session, I haven't talked to anybody. The second session, I may have told my mom or my closest friend. The third session, let me tell you, two of my friends are going to therapy now, and my brother's considering it. And I referred you to somebody else, and they're starting to feel more comfortable with not being okay, but being more vulnerable and having a sense of community with people who are working through some of the same things they are.
Hmm. And have you ever felt that stigma in your own life, the stigma about either being in therapy or being a therapist?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So
Mhm.
I've been in the single world for a while, relationship wise, and guys tend to be scared of therapists because they think that we're psychics in some way or another. They think we can read their mind.
It's like, are you diagnosing me right now on this date?
I had a guy who came to my office and he was talking to me about marketing stuff. And so I said,
Mhm.
you can have a seat on the couch. He said, oh no, I've been to therapy. I don't need to sit on your couch. Do you have somewhere else I can sit? Like, well, I guess you could sit in my chair and I can sit on the couch. um, but now it has become an honor when people say, oh, you should go and talk to Montoyia, or they call me asking for help with trying to figure out a problem, and they are totally open to considering seeing a therapist is not a bad thing to do now.
Mhm. And you mentioned that when you started your private practice, you didn't know a lot of other private practitioners in your area. Has that changed? Do you have a community now of other therapists locally, or are you finding other therapists from other places?
A little bit of both.
Hmm.
I read, I think it was Eat That Frog, and in the book, he suggested that you reach out to people in your field, whether you know them or not, and ask them to be your friend or your mentor. And so I was like, who can I ask? So I started doing a search to see whose name came up the most in my circle of friends on social media. And those two ladies, I reached out to them and I said, hey, will you be my therapy friend? And they both said yes. And so now, through them and through me being courageous enough to reach out to them, it has helped me gain more confidence in reaching out to other people. And so we do have a community here locally where a lot of therapists kind of get together. And EMDR helped me have a community also.
Mm.
And Facebook groups. There's some awesome therapy Facebook groups where I have some newfound friends, and they help support you and they help you know that regardless of what city or state or country you're in, people are pretty much the same.
Hmm.
We're pretty much the same. We have the same needs and we have the same insecurities. So, yeah. And I have also become a consultant and a mentor for people as well who are wanting to just get started.
I really agree with you. I mean, most of the people who I've worked with are in the United States, but I've started working with some folks in other countries. And I'm finding that a lot of the business building, a lot of the mindset stuff that therapists are going through all over the world is really similar.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
all so much the same. And that's why when we all learn to stop chasing other things and realize how more alike we are than different, it's just your outlook on life tends to change.
Hmm. How do you stay? I'm assuming that you do. How do you stay out of the comparison trap with your colleagues?
Um, Actually, when I first got started and I was talking to a couple of coworkers who were considering doing private practice, and I also talked to uh, two of the ladies that I was working with. Well, one of them, I could tell that there was some apprehension about sharing ideas and sharing ways to get started or ways to move forward. But there's this thing that I do with my clients. I have them pull out their phone and I have them go to Google and I have them look up how many people are in this zip code that we're in. And then I say, okay, well, tell me what's the population for the state. They tell me the population for the state. Okay, well, tell me what's the population for the United States of America. And when they tell me that, I say, okay, so all these people that are available to you, you can't reach all of them. We can't reach all of them. I only work a few hours a week. So there's enough for everybody. There is no need
Hmm.
for us to. So the comparison is not is not an issue for me at all.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And when we think about it that way, we really need each other. Like, imagine if you didn't have all of those other therapists to rely on, how awful that would be.
Right.
We're really all on the same team.
Right. Yeah, we are. And so that helps foster a better connection because now it looks like we're working together to help make the city better, or to help
Mm.
make our state better. I'm just in one little zip code and I'm not going across town. So
Yeah.
yeah, the comparison, yeah, it's a waste of time.
How are your clients finding you these days?
They find me through Psychology Today, Facebook, Instagram, and I think just Google. Um,
hmm and let me ask you a little bit about some of those. So on Psychology Today, what do you think you're doing that is helping people find you there? Because some people have a lot of success on Psychology Today, some people don't. And I often see that when people are better at showing who they really are and how they're different, that those are the people who are often having success on Psychology Today.
right. So, I'm a podcast groupie. And so listening to people like Katie May and Melvin Voorhees and Joe Sanok, and there's a couple more, but having them give you tips and pointers on how to be creative yet authentic with yourself on your Psychology Today with your wording, and to speak more to the people who are reading what you have to say, to connect with them where they say, oh my goodness, she must be talking about me. We can
Yeah.
relate, we
Yeah.
can connect. I also do that on my website too, with some of the things that I talk about. And so I speak to the readers who will most connect with me, as opposed to
hmm
just giving them my accolades and telling them what I can do for them. Because people don't really know you on these websites or Psychology Today. They know what your picture looks like and what your wording sounds like to them in their head.
Yeah. It's just the beginning of a conversation.
Right,
And you want to really be in an open, warm conversation with them.
right. Yeah, I agree.
And then you said on Facebook, and I know you've got a lot of community on Facebook.
Hmm.
So is that where people are finding you, is through your Facebook page, or are you doing any advertising on Facebook? What's working for you there?
I the more I do Facebook videos and Facebook lives of letting people
Mhm.
peer into my life a little bit. So I'm really silly on Facebook. I love to have fun. I have a great time on there. My kids, they are an extension of me. So we dance, we share videos, we share pictures from vacation, and then I may share something, a silly post, and then later from that silly post, I turn it around into something that's more of a therapeutic conversation. And so it helps to draw people in and helps. One of my favorite words is perspective. And so it
Mhm.
helps give people a different perspective of something that they may thought was silly or funny. And I tend to connect with them that way. So they've built a relationship and a trust with me to where now I really don't even have to do a whole lot of conversations over the phone, because people have already decided that we've made a connection in some way. Like, she's the one. I'm
Mhm.
not shopping. I want to come see you.
Excellent. And I bet that's both your personality and your whole essence coming through, and then also your message.
Right.
If they're resonating with both of those things, yeah, they don't want to talk to you outside of the office. They just want to get started.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah. I talk about relationships a lot also, because
Mhm.
at one point I went through some really rough times with a relationship, and people that I shared it with, I know that they were watching me. And
Mm.
not only were the people that were watching me helping to keep me accountable with working through my stuff, but every week when I make it to a certain point in working through what was difficult for me emotionally, God would send a client, a female client,
Mm.
to me to sit on my couch. And she is at the beginning phases of what I just finished dealing with.
Mm.
And so I was like, okay, so you're making me continue to do my work.
Mm.
And so my community online, they are extremely supportive and encouraging, and they help keep me accountable. And my gift to them is sharing a little bit of me. And so even if they never come and see me, they know they can refer somebody to me, and I'll do my best to help them. And if I can't, I can figure out who can.
Have you ever had, since you opened your private practice, have you ever had a low moment or a scary business moment?
Oh, definitely. In the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that. So one of the there were several reasons why I started private practice. And one of them was so that I could have a part-time job. And I had no idea what I was actually taking on. And I'm glad that I didn't, because I would not have followed through. And the first 6 months was extremely slow. And one of my girlfriends said, just give it 6 more months. I said, no, I started this so I can have extra money. This isn't working for me financially. And so she says, I promise, if you just give it 6 more months and put yourself out there just a little bit more, it's going to work. And I did. And I am usually booked up 3 to 4 weeks out every week.
As soon as your friend said it, did you believe her, or what got you to make the decision to stick with it?
I needed somebody to tell me to keep going. And I trust her. And even if it didn't work out, at least I can say, you know what? I didn't give up. I tried. I put my best foot forward. And I wanted to know if I could move past being uncomfortable with things not going my way.
Yeah, that can be such a magical time when you decide to just really push through and see, is there any way, if I'm braver, or if I do things that make me more uncomfortable, or if I try this a different way, can this actually work?
Yeah.
And that can be a time when, I'm wondering, is that a time when anything shifted in your way of putting yourself out there?
So the way I really learned to put myself out there was through Beachbody.
Interesting.
Because I joined this fitness group online to lose weight. It was a Facebook group, and we had to be accountable. So you had to post in the group 3 times a week a picture, what they called a sweaty selfie. And once a week, you had to post a video with whatever the challenge was. And I was thinking, I can't do this. I don't even like the sound of my voice. And my forehead is way too big for that camera. And I had to learn to be accepting of myself in every way and put myself out there and know that the people who are the people who the message needs to get to, it will get to them. And the people who may have ugly attitudes or nasty personalities, those people don't matter anyway. So you just focus on the good. And doing that helped me be more courageous in my business with being more authentic and being uniquely me. So when someone says, girl, you're crazy, I'm like, I know, right? Isn't that fun? When you hate to be normal?
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So you got kind of used to being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And are the sweaty selfies? Yeah. Are the sweaty selfies so that you're like proving that you actually exercised?
Right.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
That means no makeup, or your makeup is running and your hair is probably all over the place. And people commenting under your pictures, you go, girl, you did that. Oh my goodness, I can't believe you did it. And so I'm thinking, well, nobody noticed that, X, Y, and Z was going on in the picture. No, people don't care. They want to hear good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. There's a therapist on Instagram. I wonder if you follow him too, but who he videotapes himself in part of his exercise just about every day and shares it and just says like, come on, let's keep going. Let's keep doing this.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Another therapist. So, so that's interesting. We can get inspiration from other entrepreneurs and from business communities, but we can also get it from these other places in our lives. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Yeah. Reading Brene Brown's book of the gift of vulnerability, the gifts of imperfection. When I read that book, it was around the same time that I was doing the Beachbody stuff. And it helped me. I started like a personal campaign of working through fear. Like even in fear, still keep going. Fear, sometimes the goal is to make you stop and turn around and go back. But if you work through it, then you keep going. I'm scared, but I'm going to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And we can even say like, thank you, fear. I know you're trying to protect me. You have sometimes, you mean well, but I got this. Like I'm going to be okay.
Right.
kind of calm that
Yeah.
fear down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So you mentioned you have kids. I do too. How do you balance, and maybe balance isn't the right word for anybody because how in the world can you actually balance things? But how do
Right.
you balance your business with parenting and the rest of your life?
So I don't use balance. I use prioritize. I use
Mm-hmm.
priorities based on where I am in life at that time. My first year when I started, my daughter was in 12th grade, and I thought that 12th graders don't really need you as much. So I was thinking
Mm.
she could help me with her brother, and this would be a breeze. And I started feeling overwhelmed, and I learned that, okay, so I've got to prioritize my schedule. I need to know, what does she have going on in life, and what do I need to put in my calendar, and what do I need to make time for. And so I've just learned to really assess, usually every month, to see what I have going on that month, what's important to me and what's important to my kids, and put it in my calendar and work around that, where everything kind of works together. So there's no one thing that's competing for something else.
Okay. And so do you kind of have a monthly ritual where you do that?
Yeah, the first of the month, or the
Oh,
end.
nice.
Yeah, the end of one month going into the next month.
Mm-hmm.
I also take off during December, so I don't see any clients in December. December is my month to have fun. It's my month to nurture relationships that I don't really get a chance to during the rest of the year, especially during the school year when the kids are in school. And so I ask people, if you could just wait for a little while, we'll be able to hang out. So I make sure I schedule in fun times, and I use my calendar for everything.
And I'm going to be nerdy here. Is it like, what's your calendar? Is it digital? Is it on paper?
It's digital. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have to make sure that I put work stuff in there, and kids' doctor's appointments and all of those things. And the night before, I check my calendar to see what I have going on, so I can kind of have an idea of what my day is going to look like, so I can mentally set my intentions for that next day.
Getting into the nitty gritty of your business for a minute, what are you charging?
I am charging $100 an hour for individual therapy, and I'm doing 125 right now for couple sessions.
And how do you feel about your fee?
I just went up on my fee from $80, and it was really uncomfortable going up. It was
Mm-hmm.
extremely uncomfortable. And I had a client come in who was talking about financial issues that they were having, and I was thinking, oh, I should just charge her 80 instead of 100. And then I had to remember, I've gone through, Tiffany McLaurin from Hey Tiffany.
Oh,
I
yeah. Yeah. Tiffany McLean. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I went through one of her programs, and
Oh, excellent.
yeah, it was I was like, okay, what would Tiffany tell me? Tiffany would say,
Yes.
Montoyia, you're probably not charging enough. So she can work it out. And I was like, yeah, okay, well, how can I help you with your working through your finances? As opposed to me saying, well, I'll just charge you 80.
Mm-hmm.
I really have to work on my self worth with that and stay true to myself.
I love that. I call on Tiffany usually, in actual real life and maybe sitting on my shoulder, but I've called her before to help me figure out, what to charge for different things.
Yeah.
So I love that. She's that voice for both of us. If you could time travel to the beginning of opening your private practice, what would you tell the Montoyia of that time?
Just get started. Don't spend too much time trying to plan the little bitty things of preparing the workshop, or preparing to get started working. Just get started. And one good advice that I got from a friend that took me a minute to get used to was, she said, whoever you say you are, that's what you tell people. Whoever you want to be, that's what you tell people you are. And they will start to treat you as such. And so I would tell Montoyia from 2015 to get started and to live in it, own it. The people will
Mhm.
come.
So, Montoyia, what is the very best place for therapists to find you and throw compliments at you?
The very best place is on Facebook or Instagram, and you can look up Stopping the Chase .com. Yeah, those are the best places to look for me.
Okay, great. Anything else that you want to make sure that you share?
Being a podcast groupie, I am extremely grateful for the therapist, people like you, Annie, who have gotten the courage to connect and communicate and keep going, and to help people like me who just started figure out ways of how to get started, helping to build your business, build your practice, and how to maintain it, and how to be okay with reaching out to people so that they can help you figure out how to sustain and not just survive, but thrive and enjoy it.
Thank you so much.
Thank
And thank you
you.
so much for being here. Thanks for listening. To help other people find this little but fierce podcast, please tell your best therapist friends about it and take a minute to review and rate on Apple Podcasts. I really appreciate it. I'll see you next week.
Thank you. I
Awesome.
appreciate that. I
That was
enjoyed
great.
that very much.